Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas. Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a 1-hour podcast every Monday at 4 o'clock Miami time or South Florida time, where we talk about what's going on in the condo market. We're going to give you some information that's not readily available on the street. All of it's going to be coming from our own research, whether it is through the data, it's government records, or it's in the trenches. I'm Peter Zaleski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm an expert witness. I'm also the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner, Jenny Huertas. She is the broker owner of CVR Realty. Check out her website, CVRRealty.com. What are we talking about this week? We're talking about the cracks, the pricing cracks that are starting to appear among the condo towers in greater downtown Miami. We just did some research in advance of our Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Miami Condo Correction walking tours, and what we were able to determine of the 207 projects in greater downtown Miami, 33 of them are now priced below where they were in the summer buying season, which was as recently as October. That's what we're talking about. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let me go ahead and bring in Jenny Huertas from CVR Realty. Check out her website, CVRRealty.com. What's going on, Jenny? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Peter. How things going?
Everything is going good. It's been tough. You can tell it is the peak we're getting close to the peak of the winter buying season, which goes from November through April. Why? Because everybody's in town. Everybody wants information. There's all kind of data coming out. We're coming out of the holidays, yet we're needing to ramp up very quickly because we're starting to really kind of reach that crescendo, which is ultimately going to occur, Jenny, when the weekend of President's Day weekend, it's going to be somewhere around February the 17th, February the 16th. And how do we know it is the symbolic midway point, Jenny, of the winter buying season? Because we got the Miami Beach Boat Show and we have the Coconut Grove Arts Festival.
Yeah. That's coming up really soon. It's already January 12th. We did it now. We're almost in the middle of the month. It's pretty incredible how fast the time goes. But we're here. And by the way, I didn't have the chance to attend your tour, and it was very insightful, and it was fun, and it was I did my 10K steps and over, so it was definitely a great experience. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit insightful in terms of what's going on in the markets. What we did on Saturday, we did it from about 10 to about 1:15 or so. We walked about 4 miles or so, give or take. And we went through the neighborhoods of Edgewater. We went through Midtown. We also went through the Wynwood area, highlighting condominium projects, teaching people how to analyze condo towers, teaching them how to figure out how to eliminate projects. Jenny, there's so many condos down here. If you're going to go ahead and try to evaluate all of them, you're going to waste a lot of time. So what we always say is go ahead and find the buildings that make sense. So the key is to be able to eliminate buildings. I mean, Jenny, in greater downtown Miami, which will go from the Eddie Rickenbacker Causeway to the south all the way north to the Julia Tuttle Causeway, then it'll go from Biscayne Bay west to Interstate 95. You got 207 projects, just under 60,000 units. If you were to go ahead and try to figure out all 207 projects, good luck finding a unit.
Yes, exactly. It's incredible how it brings us context, but even when we are doing this day by day, and we analyze the market, and you always find something new, something that is different, something that is happening that we didn't know. It's really good to go out there and walk. And this is the time of the year to do it, because don't ask me to do this in the summer. I do it in the winter time only.
right?
So it was great. Yeah.
So Jenny, last Saturday, 3 days ago, we went ahead and we walked around the Biscayne Boulevard corridor area, which is roughly the MacArthur Causeway to the Julia Tuttle Causeway. You know what we're doing this Saturday? We're doing the Brickell Avenue area. This is the most popular area. This is where it all sort of begins. This is where everybody sort of, they hope they can go ahead and buy a condo at some point in time. And what we're going to be discussing today is how 20 of the 101 projects in the Brickell Avenue area, their pricing today, Jenny, is below where we were back in summer buying season, which goes from May through October. That's only a few months ago. So what does that say to you, Jenny? Why are prices today less in the Brickell Avenue area, which we're doing a tour next week? And we did a tour of Edgewater. There's about 11 projects out of 71 in the Edgewater area. And then Central Business District, there's about 2 out of 35, but another 11 that are kind of on the fence and likely to go negative very soon. But Jenny, why would a seller be discounting their price below what a unit traded for just as recently as the summer? Does it have to do with the fact that maintenance fees have gone up in 2026 as a result of a Surfside condo collapse? Now condo associations can no longer defer maintenance fees. Special assessments and money to pay for necessary work identified under some of these inspections that are being mandated, whether it be a structural integrity reserve study at the 10-year mark and or a milestone inspection at the 30-year mark. Jenny, is that why people are trying to get out? It's simply too expensive to live in one of these condos? Or is there another reason?
Yes, it could be very good reason. It's because it's not being extended anymore. This law is here to stay, and there's no way to defer it any longer. So yes, that's one of the reasons. The second reason might be they tried the whole year last year, they couldn't get any results, and they're getting a little bit more motivated, whatever the reason they are thinking of selling. So they realize that some of the people in the same building is actually selling below their price, the asking price, and I see a lot of decreases in the price in this market. And but it's interesting to see some brand new units being also offered less. So that's where my interest is being all along. I love vintage condos. I'm working with them. I try to develop that part of our business into really focusing on them. But maybe it's some people say, you know what, I don't want the headache. I want something brand new. I start seeing that finally better prices that that the previous buyer paid, lowering the price on new construction. That's going to be a phenomenon that has to happen in this market because we have too many condo units here in such a small area, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Jenny, I want to tell everybody, they're watching this live, and as a result, they're able to see the entire broadcast. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show a list. I'm going to tell you the buildings that are currently priced today below where they were in the summer buying season. Boy, Jenny, I would hate to be one of those people who closed during the summer. They thought they were going to buy their condo, come here for winter. It was going to be great. And then they turn out and they find that our study is showing that maybe in their unit, they actually paid too much. And it was just a few months ago. So if you're wondering about these 33 buildings out of 207 Greater Downtown Miami, we're going to be showing that list. Why? Because you're watching it live. If you want to watch this later on demand, you are basically going to have to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. You can get more information at miamicondo.club. That's where we go ahead. We do a template edit where basically we just, we work out the look of it, but then you're able to watch it kind of on demand. So kudos to you. If you tuned in live, you're going to be able to see it. And if you haven't, you want to see it downstream, you're going to have to consider joining the Miami Condo Investing Club. What do you get as a member of the club? Get access to behind all our paywalls. We're putting out 5 to 8 stories a week. Jenny, 5 to 8 stories a week we're putting out. 5 of them are a podcast. We do them every weekday at 4 o'clock. I do Mondays with you, and then I have 4 others that I do. So basically every day at 4 o'clock South Florida time, we're doing one of these podcasts. In addition to that, we do analysis. We do reports. We also do a monthly meeting. It's always on the second Wednesday of every month. It goes from 12 to about 1:15. Jenny, this is monthly meeting week. So this Wednesday, we're going to be having our January 2026 monthly virtual meeting. People get to tune in at 12 o'clock. I will lay out where we are, where we were, and kind of where we're going based on all the research we've done in the last month. We'll share some insights that you will not be seeing on the street. And that's always interesting. And then Jenny, also too, next week we have our meetups. The third Tuesday of every month, we always do a meetup. We do them from 6 to 8 o'clock. We do them on a rotating basis in various parts of the Tri-County area. Last month was in Boca Raton. This month, Jenny, we're doing it in Coral Gables. So that's what you get as a member of the club. And then the final point, Jenny, you get a discount on tour tickets. So if you want to come out and walk some of these markets, if you are a club member, you're going to save $15 off of the $65 retail price for these walking tours. So, Jen, I don't see how you can go wrong on the club, whether you are a buyer DIYing it, do it yourself, whether you're a buyer working with a realtor who's sharing all kind of information with you. Maybe you trust them, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to do your own due diligence. We're a great source of it. And you could also be a real estate professional. You could be somebody who's looking at getting a listing, and you're wondering, should I really take on this listing? Is it really going to make sense? Granted, the seller wants too much. I don't think it's going to sell, but if I got the listing, I'm probably going to make the money. Well, that might be a different story if you're priced too high and there's simply growing inventory, shrinking sales, and you're stuck with that listing. You drop $2,500 to take the photographs and the drones and the marketing and the social media advertising. And then everybody's calling you up saying they want to see the unit. When you show up there, you pay the $25 valet, you park on the street, you deal with the traffic, you get up there, and the buyer brings in, or the broker brings in a buy-side buyer, and they say, I'm going to pass on it. And then you got to kind of do it all over again. So this is really a time, I would say, to be effective and be efficient. The best way to do that is to kind of know what the data is. Would you say, Jenny?
Yes. Also, you're a buyer agent. Even more important, you're a buyer agent. Because at the end, the listing broker, they have to know about very close area around. But when you're a buyer broker, you need to know way more. You need to be able to provide alternatives for your buyers. If it's not this area, maybe you want to consider another one. That's why your tours and your data and your podcasts are so relevant, and you're really working hard, Peter. Because 5 days a week at podcasts, I tip my hat to you.
Jenny, you know what's interesting about our findings of the 207 condo projects in this greater downtown Miami area? Jenny, they're not all vintage. They're not all at least 30 years old and facing added scrutiny as a result of the Surfside collapse back in June of 2021. These are the ones on the hook for big special assessments. But the condo projects that are discounting today versus where they were price-wise in the summer, and these are closed sales back in the summer versus the asking price today. Jenny, what's interesting is it's across the board. You made reference to a project that's just come online, and yet they're discounting. They're already discounting. Why are they discounting? Too many speculators in the buildings. Too many buyers have put down cash. They went along for the ride. They thought they would be able to resell into a market that was a higher price. And now, because so much supply is out there, these prices are starting to tumble. Does that surprise you that this is not just vintage condos that are at least 30 years old, but it's actually brand new condos where you're seeing this discounted pricing?
It doesn't surprise me because I was waiting on and off for it. Because in the last time that we went through this, since we saw what was happening, I was expecting something like this happening this time. And we have way too much product, and the price range is so high. So it has to be, something has to happen. And a lot of people is waiting for those opportunities to say, you know what? I don't want to leave my money with the developer for 3 or 4 years. I'd rather to wait until finish. First of all, I need to see if they finish the building, because we start seeing buildings that, are not in such a great shape as far as financially. And I will probably do a podcast in the future about this. But you start seeing the cracks big time, definitely, everywhere, all across the board, all across the type of inventory. So this means opportunity for buyers. So just buyers, be aware. It's time to start really, really taking it close.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when you're kind of looking at it, Greater Downtown Miami really it sets the tone for investors. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you go to Miami Beach, you go into Barrier Island, those tend to be buyers more so who are looking for their dream beachfront condo. They're not necessarily paying attention to efficiency. They want all the creature comforts, and they're willing to pay for it. Where downtown Miami is more so high density, tight units,
efficient units, 700 square foot one bed, 1,000 square foot two bed. Maybe over on the beach, you might get 2,000 square foot two bed versus 1,000 square foot. And as a result of that, Greater Downtown Miami will tell you what's going on in the Tri-County, South Florida area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. What's going on in the investor type of condo in Miami Beach will tell you what's going on in sort of that luxury condo, that posterity condo. So to see what's going on in Greater Downtown Miami, you know it's going to have ripple effects going to the north as it leaks over into whether it be Aventura, Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, West Palm Beach. So pricing sort of starts for high density in Greater Downtown Miami, I would argue. And for luxury, it starts south of 5th in Miami Beach, which is about a 4-mile causeway trip. Just over the causeway, going through Biscayne Bay, past all the islands to the north, in Port Miami to the south, where all the cruise ships go out. So Jenny, you want to add anything to that in terms of how people and why people should gauge this?
Yes, I have to add something because we start seeing more and more luxury in downtown Miami, the Waldorf Astoria, the St. Regis in Brickell. So those are super high-end, bigger units, starting from the $2 million. And there's a lot of product like that coming in place. So yes, we have the masses, but we do have also, like the masses were done from 2003 to 2011, 13. We still have tight condos, especially on downtown Miami, on their, like tiny. Then it goes from super tiny studios, small one bedrooms, but we also have tons of towers that are 80 plus, and we have all these names, and Dolce Gabbana, and Aston Martin, and all that. That is mixing up with the product that used to be just the smaller type units in Greater Downtown Miami.
Interesting. And Jenny, what I'm seeing is there was a big movement towards home sharing type of condos. Let's call them Airbnb-esque type of condos. And we're actually starting to see a lot of people looking to unload those. That supply of these projects that have short-term rentals, permitting nightly rentals and stuff like that. You're starting to see a lot of them get put on the market. I'm almost wondering if maybe because of everything going on in the United States right now, especially as it pertains to affordability, it pertains to the immigration policy as well as other things. I'm almost wondering if the Airbnb bubble, if you will, everybody piling in the Airbnb as condos that can turn around and rent them out, or houses they can rent off. I'm almost wondering if it's not turning. If you remember, what was roughly about a month ago or so, we did a podcast with the economist over at airdna.com. airdna.co. And he was talking about he's expecting a little bit of a pullback. It's almost like we're starting to see that just in terms of the number of condos, especially in Greater Downtown Miami, that are built for this type of product, but are suddenly coming online and available for resale.
Yes, I think it's very interesting that in the future, perhaps we do focus on Airbnb product that is brand new in downtown Miami, just because we have so many of them.
Yeah.
And then the luxury, all these condos above $2 million that are not in the sand. Before that type of product, it was only facing the ocean. Now facing the bay is enough, and they're not really tie effective units, meaning maybe people just want to have a lifestyle even if they're in Greater Downtown Miami.
Yeah.
Not everybody is an investor. Everybody should think like an investor when they acquire something, but not all of them are, unless a lot of them are chasing that prosperity. I would say that. I'm sorry, that for prosperity, for your family, for
prosperity. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So it's interesting because we now have a market that is more dynamic than it was 10 years ago as far as product.
Yeah. Now, Jenny, we're going to get in the list, but before we do, let me sort of set the scene, what we're looking at in Greater Downtown Miami. Just to remind everybody the boundaries. You're going to have the Eddie Reckenbacher Causeway to the south. That's the one that takes you to Key Biscayne. That's basically the causeway that separates Brickell from Coconut Grove, okay? Going all the way to the north, you're going to have the Julia Tuttle Causeway. That is what will separate Greater Downtown Miami on the south side. And then on the north side, you're going to get into where the design district is. And in Buena Vista, you'll get into Upper East Side, all that type of stuff. Biscayne Bay will go to the east as a boundary, and Interstate 95 will be to the west. Now, as part of that, we have 3 submarkets we've identified, we created, we named, going all the way back to 2006, 20 years ago, if you could believe that. Oh, and by the way, we're the ones who came up with Greater Downtown Miami. It used to be called Greater Miami. And we said that doesn't kind of make sense. So we kind of carved it out right before the boom was all occurring, right when, when I had left the journalism world and got into what ultimately would become the Miami Condo Investing Club today. And you with CVR Realty and me with Condo Vulture Realty at the time. And Jenny, who knows? I might need to bring back out Condo Vulture Realty based on what I'm seeing here for those distressed buyers. But so Jenny, 3 submarkets. The submarket to the south is called the Brickell Avenue area. That'll go from the Eddie Reckenbacher Causeway up to the Miami River. The next submarket we'll call it the Central Business District, or the CBD. That's going to go from the river up to the MacArthur Causeway, General Douglas MacArthur Causeway. And then finally, we got the Biscayne Boulevard corridor, which is going to go from the General Douglas MacArthur Causeway north to the Julia Tuttle. Now, if you're asking where is Wynwood, where is Midtown, where is the Edgewater, that's all going to be in the Biscayne Boulevard corridor. If you guys want an easy way to sort of think about Greater Downtown Miami from an investor perspective, typically the cheaper product, or traditionally the cheaper product, have been located in the Biscayne Boulevard corridor. The more up-and-coming product was in Central Business District. And then finally, the stable, most predictable market was in the Brickell Avenue area. Or think of it this way. If you were looking at a law firm, the admin assistant would be living in the Biscayne Boulevard corridor. The person on track to become partner would be in the Central Business District. And then the partner and partners of the law firm would be living in the Brickell Avenue area. Brickell Avenue, you get the ability to walk everywhere, but you're not going to get a view. And then Biscayne Boulevard corridor, you get a view, but you can't walk anywhere. It floods a lot. There's still more crime, stuff like that. So that's kind of the way to kind of look at the over.